Well, here we are again, Steve. Another webinar, another day in the salt mine, as it seems.
Yes, indeed. A regular occurrence.
That's right. That's right. Thanks so much for everyone that's joined us. We do appreciate you setting aside the time. We have many people that have joined us from around the world. So again, we do deeply appreciate that. Thank you. Just a couple of points about this webinar before we kick off and get into the content. So this session is going to be recorded. For those that have registered, you'll automatically receive a download link at some point soon after the webinar. But of course, we're going to post this publicly on YouTube probably in a few days. So just keep an eye out for that. We found that using the actual Teams application provides a better and richer experience. So for anyone that might be just logging in through the web browser and not actually using the Teams application, it's possible that you're not seeing the live webcam of Steve and myself. So if you can switch over, it's probably a better idea. Chat functionality is disabled, but of course you're more than welcome to post any questions. So our moderators will bubble up any questions at the end, and time permitting, Steve and I will obviously try and answer as many questions as we can. Just note, when you post a question, by default, it will show your name, but you do have the option to flag that anonymous checkbox. So if you want to do that, you can. This session is intended to be as brief and succinct as possible. Of course, we're still providing some technical content and a live demo as part of this. But, because we're trying to keep it high level and brief, there may be some terminology if you're new to InnerRange that you may not be familiar with. So welcome to InnerRange and the InnerRange ecosystem if you're new. If you have any questions, of course, please feel free to reach out to us after the session. So that's it. I think it's fair to say, Steve, that InnerRange Mobile Access has probably been a long time coming, and it's been anticipated, and we're here now, fortunately. We're very excited about the release. We'll go into a little bit of detail as to why the solution has been longer than we anticipated in terms of coming to market. There's certainly some good reasons behind that, so we'll cover that. But yeah, we are excited. Today is release day, 1st of August. I'm Rusty. I head up the sales team for InnerRange across ANZ, and I am joined by my esteemed colleague, Mr. Steve Superman Mitchell.
Thanks, Rusty. For those who don't know me, I'm the Director of Products here at InnerRange. I've been with the company as one of our senior engineers for over 18 years now, and I'm now overseeing all of the products that we're building and how they're fitting together.
Excellent. So let's just go through some of the contents to cover off what we will discuss. So the first thing we'll look at is just a short promotional video. So we want to show you this for a couple of reasons, because it provides a nice high-level overview of our new solution. But also, installers out there, this is a marketing resource or tool that you could use. So if you're talking to your end customers and you just want to show them, what the solution is and how it works, just a nice little video that will be posted on YouTube as well. We'll cover off the license model and requirements. And then we'll talk about, and this probably takes, the most amount of time in terms of some of the more detail. We'll talk about our security first approach, both in terms of cybersecurity and physical security. Then we'll give you a live setup walkthrough and show you what it looks like from the installer's perspective using the IR Reader config, that is to say the installer app, and similarly the end user experience and what it looks like from the end user app. And then we'll cap it off with the summary and Q&A. So let's just start with the promotional video.
InnerRange's new mobile access solution revolutionizes cybersecurity best practices as well as management of user credentials and data. This solution provides users with smartphones and smart devices the ability to gain entry through access-controlled doors without the need for physical access control cards or fobs. Utilizing a Bluetooth-based method of access control for the InnerRange professional and enterprise solutions, the mobile credentials are sold as a one-off purchase and can be reassigned indefinitely to make credentials easier to issue and manage. The mobile access credentials are created and stored on-site within the system's controller and software, stored securely behind the network security infrastructure of your organization. This gives your site administrator full control of who is allowed at the facility and when. The credentials are securely delivered to the user through InterRange's IR Connect cloud service and are accepted and installed on the user's smart device. IR Connect acts only as the delivery system and does not store any of the critical user or facility information in a cloud repository. InterRange guarantees that access through a door has been made by an authorized user. The user's mobile device must be unlocked with authentication, using either their biometric or PIN credential, and only then can the selection of the required door be made within the IR Access mobile application. For higher security applications, a secondary authentication can be enabled to add a greater level of security for at-risk areas. This requires the user to authenticate their identity with their biometric credential before the IR Access credential is sent to the door to grant access. With a mobile app for Android and iOS, InterRange's mobile access ensures peace of mind by storing all the critical user information securely within the InterRange controller. This provides a cyber-safe, cloud-provisioned solution that puts the security of the user and their data first. To learn more, contact your nearest InterRange sales rep or visit interrange.com.
Great. Steve's going to cover off the license model and requirements.
Thanks, Rusty. Well, like anything in life, one of the big questions is how much does it cost? So we'll start with that. Our InterRange mobile access platform is fairly simple to understand. Our license model is a once-off purchase style product. So the licenses for the credentials, each credential is purchased as a one-off purchase and can be reused indefinitely. So there's no subscription, no ongoing fees or ongoing costs for our credentials. You buy them once and then you can keep using them as many times as you want. That means that a set of credentials can be purchased for a site and they can easily be revoked from people, reallocated to new staff members, reused as many times as you like. That means that as staff members leave, you can allocate them to new staff. For visitor management and contractor management solutions, you can allocate them to a visitor for the day or a few hours, revoke them from that visitor when their visit ends, and allocate them to the next visitor, meaning that the costs of this overall model are kept quite low. As far as the actual cost goes, it's around the same price as a physical card or fob, to give you a good idea of how much that is. You'll see that on your Wesco price lists very shortly, given that the product is being launched today. But that's the ballpark number that we're talking about. To put it in perspective as well, this model means that the total cost of ownership of the solution is reduced, because in reality, over 50% of physical credentials are typically replaced every 3 years. That could be due to them being damaged, them being lost, all of those sort of scenarios, where in this case, this licensed credential lasts forever. If somebody loses their phone or upgrades to the next model, you can easily reissue that credential to that user and they'll have that on their new phone ready to go without any extra cost. As far as the order quantities go, the only restriction we have is a minimum order quantity of 10. You can purchase them in any quantity above that. If your site needs 15, 22, 83, whatever number of licenses, that's fine. The MOQ of 10 is that only lower minimum that's required. As far as other requirements for the solution goes, it is about the Inception or the Integrity version. So Inception version 6.2.0 that came out earlier this week. That's the minimum version for Inception to get the best experience out of these mobile credentials. And similarly, the Integrity software version 24.0 if your solution is an Integrity solution.
Great. Okay, so one of the reasons why we have, shall we say, taken our time to ensure this solution is as robust as possible is we have baked cybersecurity into the very core, to the heart. You know, it's right in the foundation of our solution. We didn't want to compromise. You know, in this day and age, we had to go for the gold model, the gold standard. Shall we shout out to the Olympics at the moment? So what I mean by that in a little bit more detail is when it comes to securing the site and securing the solution, an encryption key is required. Now, we chose to ensure that the actual encryption key that's generated, which is unique per system or per customer, is generated and stored by the inception or the integrity system. That is to say, the access control system. So this is not generated by the IR Connect InterRange cloud. It's not stored in the cloud. So at the end of the day, any system that is exposed on the internet, any cloud-based system potentially could be, vulnerable to an attack. Now, of course, we put in a lot of effort to harden our cloud systems and patch them and keep them updated and improve them, just like any good vendor should. But it would be wrong to think that no system is infallible and no system can ever be penetrated. That would be a wrong idea. So with that in mind, our position, and again, this is what I mean about baking it into the core of the solution, is that even if in the unlikely event that our cloud got hacked, there's no data there. So it's an empty chest. There's nothing to get. So there's no user data stored in our IR Connect cloud. The cloud is simply a provisioning pass-through mechanism to issue that mobile credential to the user. So again, no sensitive data stored in the cloud. All of that is stored behind the customer's network. If a customer says, where is this sensitive data stored? Well, customer, it's in your access control system, in your control, behind your network, in your domain.
It's a really important point to raise. It's a very unique part about the system, and it's one of the reasons that we did take a bit longer to get this solution to market, in that we were going the traditional route, having the keys, having the cloud play a core part of the issuing process. But in retrospect, taking a look at the risks, it just wasn't suitable. So we re-architected the solution to go something that's very unique to us, given that we have control of the access system, the cloud, and the apps, and allows us to then put as much security and as much customer information as possible at the access control edge, with very, very little being in the cloud part, using that only as that connectivity broker between app and access system. The other aspect of our security first standing is around the physical security. So ultimately, we are selling intruder and access solutions. So we care about knowing who has got access to what doors, allowing you to protect your customers' premises, knowing exactly who has access to that system and that the right person is going through the correct door. Also knowing that the correct door is being selected. You're not accidentally unlocking a door that you're not intending to, which could then either allow people to go through doors that they're not allowed to, so someone else getting access to those doors, or interfering with other logic such as the anti-passback logic that's often seen on higher security solutions as well. So we want to make sure that physical access control is taken to the highest level, so that we're accurately knowing who you are, what door are you intending to go through, and really it's that intent that you're intending to go through that door. With traditional cards, that was easy because it was your action of presenting a card to the reader at that door. We knew exactly who you were, what credential you were using, and which door you were intending to access. So we're trying to achieve that same standard in our mobile access world. One of the big focuses for us as well, and which was a big highlight throughout our extensive beta process, was a focus on reliability. Ultimately, with the mobile app solutions, we want our solution to be as reliable as possible for our customers. We want the ability for somebody to open their phone and access the door that they intend quickly and easily without any unknowns or any weird behaviors occurring. If something worked 85% of the time, 90% of the time, that means that it doesn't work 10 to 15% of the time, or for 10 to 15% of some customers. So we wanted to make sure that our solution worked reliably as much as possible, which is a common theme throughout all of our products. That reliability, that experience, that consistency is really important to the InterRange ecosystem. So that's where a lot of the feedback that came from our sites focused around that reliability aspect as well. Were people able to reliably access those doors as soon as they access them, as soon as they approach them? Was that true all of the time? Or what feedback, what issues were coming through? So while while some sites were quite reliable in the standard experiences, there were other issues that were coming up, which is why we took that extensive time for beta to get the solution to be as good as possible. Increasing our physical solution as well is around that optional biometric confirmation mode. So that was highlighted in that promo video as well. It means that as somebody walks up to a door, they can tap the unlock button in the app and grant access to the door. But if you've got some higher security doors in your premises, could be server rooms, storage rooms, those sort of things, you can add the extra biometric confirmation requiring the user to present their fingerprint or their facial biometrics to the phone. That means that it's mitigating any risk about somebody leaving their phone unlocked on their desk, for example, someone else picking it up and trying to get access to a room they shouldn't be able to access. It means that those secure rooms can have a little extra step added, and it means that it's guaranteed that the right person is accessing the right door that they have access to.
Yeah, and just thinking a little bit more about that, guaranteeing the right person has the right access to the door, and it is that person that goes through that door. That reliability also comes down to audit. You know, particularly larger organizations or those that are more sensitive from a security perspective, they often run audit reports to find out who's been going through what doors. So that reliability and, focus on intent to access those doors, that was, absolutely critical for us to ensure we nailed that. Okay, so the next step is I want to actually provide you just a brief walkthrough of what it looks like to set up this solution essentially from scratch with an inception system. And then we have a little video to show you what it looks like from the installer's app perspective. So I'm just going to exit out of this PowerPoint. And as I said, this is fairly brief. So what I want to cover is just a PowerPoint. And can I zoom in a little bit just to make it a bit easier to read? That might help. So we have step-by-step guides for both inception and integrity. So these will step you through on how to set all this up. It's very straightforward. There's a nice little overview which explains everything. Then you've got your prerequisites which cover what you need to get set up. So, inception in this particular case, the firmware version, what licenses you need, the particular part numbers of the hardware. As an installer, you'll need access to the cloud, that is to say the mobile access cloud, to set this up, which I'll explain in a moment. If you don't have a cloud account with us, you can just go to account.inarrange.cloud and set one up. Most people watching this webinar, however, probably already have a cloud account set up by virtue of the fact that they have a Sky Command account, which is another solution that we offer. So that may already be done. Okay, so when it comes to setting this up, the initial setup, I've broken this down into 4 points. So I've just put some numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right-hand side. Marketing team, sorry, I've edited your PDF, don't kill me. So the first step is to log in to that cloud. Couldn't be easier. Second step, again, let me just zoom in just a little bit more. Here we are. The second step is to navigate to systems and then click on the add new system. Give it a name, could be Acme Industries, whatever the name of the organization is. Really straightforward. Once that's done, step 3 is using that linking code that is automatically generated when you create that system. So you copy and paste this basically. So copy that from the cloud, and then you go into the inception system and paste that linking code. Now we're into the inception side of things. There's no need, therefore, now to actually access the cloud at all from this point on. So the end user never needs to log into the cloud, and that's not the intended purpose, of course. As an installer, the only time you need to access the cloud is when you're creating a new system. That's it, really simple. So you copy and paste that linking code into the inception system. It gives you some feedback in terms of the status, and you can enable and disable that if you wanted to. And the final step is just simply configuring the readers, the mobile access reader and keypad, to link it to the system. Now I have a little video which I'll show you in just a moment, which will go through this. But on the right-hand side, you can see a little picture here. This is essentially a prompt. So as you open the IR Reader Config app, the installer app, it will prompt you to configure any unconfigured readers. You've logged into that app using your installer account, so it knows the systems, it knows the sites, and it can apply that site ID. That site ID relates to the encryption key that is uniquely generated by the access control system. And that's essentially it from the installer side. Like I said, couldn't be easier. And now I want to cover off what this looks like as a video from the installer's perspective, a little bit more detail in terms of the app itself.
So now we'll have a look at the installer or the reader configure app. So I'll go ahead and open this app, and automatically it's displaying a list of readers that it can detect. Of course, I can hit the refresh button and see what it presents. Now I'm looking at the demo room front door, which happens to be the top reader, which is just beside me. So if I want to go ahead, I can click on that, present some details about this particular reader. I can rename the reader if I wanted to, and that's saved in the actual reader. And so when that's presented to the end user, that will be displayed according to how you name that reader. I then have the app confirmation mode, so I could change this to biometric. And so essentially what this means is anytime anyone tries to access this reader, it will then prompt the inbuilt biometrics of the phone to be, actioned and authenticated before the actual door will unlock. I can update the firmware version, so I can select that. It will then look for, I hit the plus button, it will then look for any firmware that I've loaded into the phone. It's imported that firmware, and I can go ahead and update that if I wanted to. You can update the firmware from the head-end software, that is to say the integrity software or the inception system, and you can do that en masse. So you can do a big batch update. You don't have to do it per reader, but of course you have the option of doing it per reader if you wanted to. Down the bottom we can see the serial number and the site ID, which is the unique code or the unique ID that's generated for this particular site, and that links to the unique encryption key that's embedded in the system. I have some more options as well. I can reset that site key back to its default, so if we need to change that to a different encryption key, we can do so. We can locate the reader, so that's flashing and playing a little song. We can end that. And finally, we have the firmware information. So if you want more detailed information about a particular firmware, you can present that. Going back to the home screen, we have the settings. Now this is just logged in under my account. Installers, you would obviously log in under your own account. And we can see the site list. So these are the sites that I am authorized as the installer to be able to configure these readers.
Great. And Steve is going to look at this now from an end user perspective.
Yeah, so everything Rusty just covered was the installer's perspective. So that goes through creating of the system in the cloud, linking that to the access control system, and then configuring the readers to basically just assign them the name and the encryption key that's needed. And once that's done, the installer's part of that experience is complete. You saw from the apps that there's very little options in there as far as customization and other settings. All of those things are accessed just like our current Cypher readers, which is through the integrity or the inception head end. So now from here on out, it's the end user experience part of the story. So this is about what your end users would do on a day-to-day basis to manage their staff, their visitors, their credentials in general. So I'll just jump out of this and I'll switch across to integrity. So integrity system designer, that you're all very likely familiar with. If I search for a user, so this is assuming that the system is all linked and ready to go, I'll just look up Rusty and open up his account. It's a very lifelike photo there for Rusty. I like it. The process itself is very similar, just like assigning a card to a user. It goes through the exact same process, so we can hit the acquire card button. That will load up the acquire card dialog that will show the various integrations that are used if you're using biometrics, QR codes, all of those things. In this case, we've got the inner range mobile credential tab selected. All that the end user needs to do is click the generate credential and send invite button. That will then prompt them for the email address for who to send this invitation to. In this case, the email address is pre-filled in because this user account, the user Rusty Blake, already had their email filled in as a custom field. If they didn't, this field would be blank and you can type in the email to send it to. All they need to do is hit generate and send, and they get the confirmation that Rusty's been assigned card number 8. the invitation code is visible here, and it will also have been sent to his email address. Beyond that, we can see that the credential is in the waiting for user to claim state. So that's it from the integrity side of things. As an example of what the email will look like, this is what the end user would receive. So an invitation from our in-range cloud, our mobile access cloud, the invitation code itself, a QR code that they can easily scan on their phone, as well as the link that's within that QR code. What this code does, or what this QR code does, is if they have the app installed on their phone, then it will automatically open the app and automatically type in the invitation code. So all an end user would need to do is scan and hit the claim credential button in the app. If they don't have the app installed yet, then it will actually take them to the corresponding Play Store or the App Store. So App Store on Apple, Google Play, Play Store on Google phones. So trying to make this as convenient as possible for the end users. We'll have a video later of what the claiming process or the end user experience is like for the app. But that's it from a credential management perspective. One thing I didn't mention is with the licensing model itself, the licenses are enforced in the access control system. So the integrity software has had mobile access credential licenses applied to it, and the same is true for Inception.
Sorry, just one quick question, Steve. Can you automate the generation of those mobile access credentials?
Yes, very good point. So this logic ties in to all of the other functionality within Integrity. It's like our other mobile access credential integrations as well. It means that you can configure this system to automatically allocate credentials to users and automatically revoke them under conditions that you set up. Okay. That means that you could link this with visitor management or contractor management solutions and automatically allocate a user when the visitor is set to arrive and automatically revoke the credential when the visitor ends, when the visitor leaves. That means that those credentials are automatically being allocated and cleaned up, reducing a lot of the admin overhead. And the same can be true for staff. As those who are familiar with Integrity know that you can integrate the Integrity head end with systems like Active Directory and other personnel management systems, and you can achieve the same thing. As a staff member gets inducted into the Active Directory system of a company, they can automatically have a user account made within Integrity software, which can automatically send them an invitation code to claim their credentials so that they're ready to go on their first day. So I'll switch across to the Inception interface as well, just to show this experience. So those familiar with Inception have known that up until this point, Inception has not had any licenses. This is the first license that Inception has been allocated now. So there are likely to be more in future for some of the advanced functionality that we have planned. But in the meantime, this is the first license that is allocated to the Inception controller. The licenses are managed in the same way as Integrity software, so via the Keypoint licensing portal that InnoRange offers, with the exact same experience of purchase the license through your Wesco account, and that'll be allocated to the Inception serial number or the Integrity software, and then claimed as usual. But anyway, from an end user experience, this is the Inception interface, obviously logged on as an installer account, which is why they can see the extra menus. If we navigate to the Manage Users page, and I'll just select a random person. So within the Edit User screen, with the version 6.2 update, we've got an extra field added. So we've got our credentials field, which is for our physical credentials. This user has a Cypher card already assigned, or a Cypher fob. We've now got a new field called Mobile Credentials. All we need to do from the Inception end is say allocate mobile credential. This shows that this system has used 3 licenses out of a maximum of 20. So it's really easy to see how many credentials you've got left. And it has that same pattern that if you revoke some, that license is used would go down. I won't bother typing it in, but it's the same experience that if you type in a user's email account, I can type in Russell.Blake. I see we'll just have a few emails waiting for him.
What an honour.
We allocate a credential, successfully allocated. The invitation has been sent to russell.blake at interange.com, and the invitation code's here and in that email that he would have received. And the status is sitting there as invitation sent. So once he claims that invitation, then this would be updated to active, and he'd be able to use that credential to access the doors on this site.
Excellent. Okay, so Steve's covered off the provisioning of the credentials manually and automatically. And the next step is to show you what it actually looks like from the end user experience using the app itself. So let's have a look.
I'm standing out the front of InterRange at the delivery store and just want to show you from the end user experience what it looks like to use the app and actually gain access through a door. So what I've done is I've unlocked my phone, used my biometrics to unlock my phone. I then open the mobile access app. Immediately the app starts scanning and looking for any readers that are nearby. You'll notice in the bottom left corner that we have the quick access tab open. And so what this does is it shows the reader that is closest to the phone. As I get closer, the read range and the reader strength increases. And if I want to unlock that door, I select unlock and I'm in. The next thing that I want to show you is the All Readers tab. When I select this, the phone displays a list of all the readers that it can connect to and has signal strength to. This list will dynamically update based on where I am and how close the phone is to the reader. So let's go for a walk down the hallway and see how this changes. The read range is incredibly powerful. It does vary per device, but can often be up to 15 to 25 meters line of sight. So what I'm interested in getting access to is the general store, and it appears at the top. So let's select the unlock button. The door has unlocked and access is granted. The last thing that I want to show you is the Credentials tab. The app allows any number of credentials to be loaded into the app. So you could use the app on lots of different sites and buildings. Could be base build, could be a gym, could be the yacht club, whatever you want.
Excellent. How many people have a yacht club that they visit frequently? I don't know.
Probably more than you think.
Yeah. Okay, so that really wraps it up. As we said, it's a high-level summary, enough technical detail and enough live content to give you a good sort of idea of how the solution works and whet your appetite. But now we certainly invite any questions and our moderators will bubble them up. Is there anything you want to say, Steve, before we jump into questions?
I think the main parts are that this solution is going live today, so on sale at Wesco branches. So if you want to get proper demos of the solution in person, see how it works, it's best to visit a branch or contact your BDMs, either InterRange or Wesco. And get a proper run through of that.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that reminds me, good point, Steve. Thank you. So just looking at our website, actually, under the product section and then user interfaces, because a reader is an interface that the user interacts with, we have our newly launched mobile access reader, mobile access keypad. So these two here that sit along our side, our traditional reader and keypad. And so I can go ahead and now click on this. You've got the part number, you've got some technical details, you have that promotional video that I showed you before. And then, again, some details here. We have a brochure as well and technical data sheets, and the firmware should be uploaded today as well. In terms of the brochure, there we are. Let's move across here. So just a nice little summary video. So if you need some, literature that you need to provide to end users, this explains how it all works. Okay, so let's jump to some questions now. Allow us to move to the Q&A section, and we'll have a look at the published. Okay, so one of the questions was, can you use this with a third-party lock, e.g. Salto locks? That's a really good question. Unfortunately, not. The InterRange mobile access solution doesn't integrate to any other access control solution, whether that's Salto or other.
But what, given that you've got your mobile device, your phone itself can hold multiple credentials and multiple apps. So even if a site is using a hybrid of Cypher or inner-range mobile access readers and the Salto locks, for example, or any other access control system locks, the phone itself is that medium that can hold those different credentials. So it is still possible for those sites to interact. It's just going to be a different experience.
Yep, correct. The next question is, are the mobile credentials locked to a site? So I guess there's two things to that. So you have the notion of mobile credential licenses, and these are just licenses, a quantity-based license, in the same way that you're probably familiar with door licenses in the integrity software. So you order a number of door licenses, goes through Keypoint, you claim them, and you have them, within a very short period of time, perhaps a matter of hours. And that would be also true for mobile credential licenses. But in reference to lock to a particular site, so again, as a security-first approach, the way this solution has been designed is when the installer initially sets up those readers, that site ID is applied to those readers, which then subsequently locks that with that encryption key to the access control system. That can be reset. So the original installer or whoever is authorized to have that same site ID can reset that, so unlock those card readers and keypads if necessary, and so then they could be set up with a different site ID perhaps and a different encryption key. But yes, once they're set up, yes, they're locked.
And as Rusty was running through that promo video or that app demonstration video, the app itself can have as many credentials as you want. So the end user can have a credential for their home, for their work, for the base building of their office, for their gym, etc. But the experience gets abstracted away. So all the end user is seeing is the list of readers that they have a credential that they can send to the doors. They tap the unlock button and it will send the correct credential. So if you've got many different sites, each with their own inception controllers or independently managed integrity systems, for example, you can have multiple credentials managed for each of those sites, and the user will still get that cohesive experience. They don't need to know which credential they need to use or which fob on their keyring. They just hit the unlock button and the app works that out.
Great. Next question is, will this work on existing Cypher readers or do we need to install new ones? Yeah, really good question. Look, unfortunately, yes, you would need to buy new mobile access readers. The existing Cypher readers won't work because physically they don't have the Bluetooth chipset, the actual physical components inside those existing standard Cypher readers as such. So yes, you would need to buy and replace them. Next question, how do you lock the reader to a site so unauthorized user cannot configure the readers? I think we've kind of answered that one.
So that's actually covered by our cloud component. So that's one of the only aspects of our cloud, really. With that cloud piece, that's where you're logging on with your inner range account. Your inner range account will be associated with a business, so your installation company business, and that relationship means that your business is linked to all of the systems that you can manage. All of your technicians can have an account linked to your business, and so only your staff will be able to configure the readers that your business can manage. It means that another technician who logs on won't be able to get access to those readers. They won't have permission. If they try to configure one of those readers, it won't work. They'll get an access denied experience within the reader config app. That also means that you can control this stuff from a personnel management perspective as well. That as you onboard a new technician onto your team, you can add that user into your business within the inner range cloud ecosystem, and they can immediately start doing service calls for you, start commissioning readers, etc. And if that employee doesn't work out and it has to be let go, he can be removed from that your business and lose access to configure those readers as well. So it's a very powerful administrative ability within our cloud, and it's something that we're going to be propagating out throughout Sky Command and other systems as well.
Cool. This next question is excellent. Bear with me as I read this out. What is the roadmap to NFC credentials rather than just Bluetooth? Also, what is the roadmap to Apple and Google Wallet credentials? Will this be compatible with non-Cipher readers? Example, a site that has recently deployed HID Signo readers. Okay, good question. So the situation is that the newly released in-range mobile access readers, they don't support NFC, they don't support wallet. That is something that we are keenly looking at. However, obviously, wallet is a relatively new solution and experience, particularly as Apple has, been the bottleneck behind that for many years, and it's in more recent years that Apple have opened that up. So that is definitely something that we are looking at. Perhaps with a newer generation, in-range mobile access reader that we may have, we'll see what's on the R&D roadmap and see how that plays out in time. But certainly, a newer generation hardware would support wallet, but not this one. You may have seen that in-range have partnered in an ODM relationship with HID. So these are like in-range Signo readers, so to speak. These are customized HID Signo readers which support the Cipher P card technology, and Signo readers support wallet. So if you have a customer right now that absolutely requires wallet, we have a solution, the in-range Signo readers.
That's exactly right. That is the go-to solution for adding wallet in the short term. Wallet is an evolving technology. At the moment, it's quite prohibitive to push out to the mass market. It's something targeted at only the highest enterprise, but that's where those premium HID Signo solutions can come into play. So there's customers who want that wallet solution as soon as possible. The inner range branded HID Signo readers are our best option for that.
Cool. Next question is, do you need email setup and integrity for the credentials to be sent? No, you don't. You don't need to set up an email communication handler if that's the specific question you're asking. You don't need to set up an SMTP server email communication handler in integrity. The credential is all sent through the IR Connect cloud. Optionally, you do have the ability to send it through your own SMTP server. If you want to set that up, there is a checkbox, but most people will probably just send it through the cloud because it's automated. So the next question is, why an app to configure the reader rather than configure from the head end, integrity/inception controller? Yeah, excellent question. So I've got some thoughts on that, Steve, but perhaps you might be better to answer that one from a technical perspective.
Yep, no worries. There are a few aspects to that. Partly from an identification perspective, it's much easier using the Bluetooth apps, like standing directly in front of the reader. Being able to identify them as part of that commissioning process is quite key. The aspect of loading the encryption key onto the readers as well, being able to do that from that app perspective and configure them directly has always added quite a benefit to it. Probably the firmware updating ability is one of the key ones for the app experience too, because uploading the firmware via the app is much, much quicker due to the size of the firmware. So that's part of the reasons why the app existed. The app did offer some additional features in the past around fine-tuning the readers, but we've optimized those features out as well. So there's some of the things that the app used to do, but no longer needs to do as well.
Cool. So it's really about like that initial setup commissioning phase. You're in a construction site and you're setting up these readers for the first time, or on a test bench, or pre-staging or something like that. You may not even have an integrity system set up at that point, but you can, in terms of the software, but you can still pre-commission those readers.
That's right, yeah.
I think it's fair to say as well, hopefully I'm not getting ahead of R&D here, so Steve may give me a wrap over this later, but I think it's fair to say that going forward, we will add more functionality in terms of mass configuration to these readers from the head-end integrity and inception system. Already, you can do a mass batch firmware update, so that's a big tick box. As Steve said, it is quicker if you do it one at a time through the installer app, just because of the size of the file that needs to be sent down, the RS485 and blah blah. However, if you have some time and you want to update 8 or 16 or many more readers all at the same time, then you can do that through the head-end software. So that's a nice, tick box, so to speak. But going forward, I think there probably will be more mass configuration options where you can select 50 readers, 100 readers, whatever it is, and change those options. Like, for example, read range. So you can configure the read range on these readers. I said in the video, the read range, is up to like 25 meters line of sight. It could actually be a little bit more than that. From what we've experienced, you can configure the read range on a per reader basis. And I'm hoping that could be something that could be configured en masse going forward. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, we're always looking at ways to improve the experience of these things. Initially, the app was something that was absolutely necessary. And so, if we can pull some of those features back into our integrity and inception head ends to make your processes even simpler, that's something we're going to investigate.
Next question is, can you have two of the same mobile access credential? So presumably, like that's the card number, so to speak. Two of the same mobile access credential loaded into different phones. Say you've got a work and a personal phone and you want the same credential in both. Okay, good question, Steve.
Ultimately, no. It's very similar to a card. You don't have the ability to clone a card and have the exact same site code card number details into different physical cards, because that then means you can't track who's going where. You don't know which credential was used. So, if you do have a work and a personal phone, you can't have the same credential in both, because then you start to lose that tracking ability. If somebody accesses a door, we want you to be able to know, and we want your customers to be able to know not only who accessed the door, but with what credential.
Sure. So, say like they lose their work phone and someone, gains access to the site, they need to know that it's the work phone, right?
Exactly right. And it means that if a phone is lost or a device is lost, you can disable that credential on that phone as opposed to needing to disable both.
Yeah.
But with our license model and integrity and inceptions models where users can have many credentials assigned to them, you can easily have two mobile credentials assigned to them, one for their work phone, one for their personal phone.
Sure.
But it would use the second license.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, see, it's not like you have to create a second user profile. They can have multiple credentials, If a user gets a new phone and needs a new mobile credential, does that count as needing an extra license? Well, that depends on what they are doing with their old phone. If they are, disposing or selling or whatever their old phone, then you can subsequently revoke that old mobile credential and simply issue a new one to the new phone. So in that case, no, it would not count as needing an extra license.
Exactly right. There's a feature in both integrity and inception where a credential can be reissued to a user, and that means that they can keep their same card number throughout as well. It'll just resend a new invitation code so that the credential can be allocated to the new device and subsequently removed from the old one.
Yeah, cool. We're getting a lot of questions, Steve. This is great. Does the app need to be open to unlock a door? Yes, it does. Again, this is just covering that whole security first approach. I think the vast majority of people have some sort of biometrics on their phone to unlock their phone. Hopefully people don't just have that with no authentication. So we'll go through the phones, the actual device, biometric authentication process. The app needs to be open. And then, as I showed in that video, you've got the quick access tab. So it's not hard. You just unlock the phone, app, quick access is selected by default, and it shows the closest reader, hit unlock. And like I said before, you've probably got a read range comfortably 20 meters. So you've got plenty of time to walk up to that door.
Yeah, that experience is key. That if you unlock your phone, open up the app, you can then hit the unlock button as you're approaching or as you're up to the reader. If you're in a busy hallway, ultimately these things come down to the reliability, like we were talking about earlier, that if you're in an open area with one reader, then it's pretty reliable, regardless of what technology you're using as well. Gestures and other bits and pieces that can be done to access a door. It's a very simple scenario. But as soon as you're inside and there are multiple readers around, if you're in a hallway with readers on each side of the hallway and up and down the hallway itself, then a gesture in the middle of a hallway could unlock any random reader.
How would you know?
And that's where the ability to open the app and walk up to it, the closer you are to the reader that you want to access. That will then be shown on the quick access menu. Simple tap of the unlock button as you're approaching the door, and it will unlock before you even get there. So no need to actually interact with the reader as well. You can be standing in front of it and hit the unlock button easily.
Cool. The extra biometric confirmation, is that a setting in the app, a global setting for the site, or a setting per reader? Okay, so that's a setting per reader, which is the most flexible, which is what you want. There will be situations where there'll be standard access control doors, and then there'll be higher security doors where that extra layer of biometric confirmation is required. And so when the app is open, press the unlock door, it then triggers the inbuilt biometrics of the phone to be authenticated, and then subsequently the door unlocks. And so you've got the choice there whether you configure that on a per reader, per door basis. The next question is a particular software edition required for Integrity to use the application, Pro, Business, or Corporate? Yeah, great question. Any software edition, as long as it's Integrity version 24 or later.
Pro or above at this point?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, any of what you've just mentioned there, Pro, Business, or Corporate. Yeah. Okay, it looks like we've had some more questions just recently posted, so let's just have a quick look at them. Will existing Cypher P and Cypher cards still work on mobile access readers? Yes. There's no change in functionality in terms of standard Cypher functions. So
yeah, they are Cypher readers, Cypher smart card readers with additional mobile access functionality.
Correct.
So even for sites wanting that mobile ability in future, or maybe they want that mobile ability in future, it's all the same functionality from a Cypher experience with the Cypher P card, Cypher U, and Cypher C. But there's that ability to add mobile credentials if and when the customer requires them.
Next question is, we work on a site with 3 nominated security companies all doing works. So this is a large site, it's a university. It's fairly common from what I've seen. How will this affect our ability to manage these readers?
There is capabilities in our cloud. It may be something that our support needs to enable at this point in time until the process can be more easily managed by yourselves. But multiple companies can be allocated to the system within the cloud. So that customer system that was created in our cloud, that can have multiple installation company businesses assigned to it. You can assign primary and secondary companies as well, or some that only have the ability to interact with the readers themselves. So one company may be the one that can link the customer system to the Integrity or the Inception, and then the other companies who it may be subcontracted out to may only have reader config abilities. So definitely have that capacity to achieve that scenario in the cloud.
I'm glad you answered that because I had no idea on that one. That's a good question.
Barely answered that.
The next question is, for a large site that, for example, has 500 Cypher readers, so this is the standard Cypher reader, would there be a kind of buyback option for upgrading to the new Cypher or the new mobile access reader? Short answer is it kind of depends. It depends on whether those existing readers are still boxed or whether they've been unboxed and physically installed on site. If they've been physically installed on site, probably not. I don't think there's any buyback option, certainly nothing in a formalized sense. Look, have a chat to us. Of course, we can look at things on a case-by-case basis, but the answer is probably unlikely, certainly if they've been unboxed. If they are still boxed, definitely we can look at something there. Will this work on Apple Watch, or is this planned to be added in the future?
That is something that we're investigating in the site, so potentially. We'll need to investigate the abilities in a lot more detail, but that is one of those convenient options that would be quite useful if the user can open up the app via their watch, Android or Apple, then that would be much more convenient as well. So no promises, but it's definitely something we're investigating.
Cool. Yeah, it's fair to say that there will be continual updates. We've got a list of feature requests already from the beta phase for the app itself, adding some more functionality, improving the user experience. We're continually investing in R&D. So watch this space. There'll always be updates to the app, to the solution in general. The next question is, are the mobile credential readers multi-format? Yes. So with the standard Cypher reader, we have the notion of a Cypher reader, and then we have Cypher multi-format reader, which just adds the multi-format component, adds the ability to read the CSN of other 13.56 megahertz cards. Just the CSN. That's the only thing that it adds. In the case of mobile access readers, we chose to keep things simple and not have a separate multi-format version. So in effect, all in-range mobile access readers are multi-format in the sense that they read the CSN of other 13.56 megahertz cards as well. The next question is, will the solution operate if the inception itself has no internet connection? I'm assuming you wouldn't be able to assign new credentials, but would existing ones operate?
Yeah, that's a really good question. To allocate new credentials and even to commission some of the readers, the internet connection is required. The inception controller or the integrity software, that is the piece that is generating the credential. It's the one with the encryption key. It's the one with all of that information. So as an app types in the invitation code to claim a credential, it goes to our cloud, which goes to the access system in order to actually create the encrypted and secure payload before being sent back to the phone. So yeah, to allocate new credentials requires an internet connection, but once allocated, no internet connections needed. It will just work because the phone is communicating with Bluetooth to the reader. Reader understands how to decrypt that payload and can send that through as a standard card badge. So the day-to-day experience does not require any internet connection. It's only when allocating or claiming credentials.
Nice. That's really the gold standard, right? You don't want to be reliant on the internet to get through a door.
Exactly right.
I mean, do I have to explain that anymore? Next question is, when will the readers be available for purchase? Today, Thursday, the 1st of August. We've still got some more questions coming through, so let's have a look. Does the app only open doors? Can it be used to disarm and arm buildings? So I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. So this depends on how you set up the integrity or inception system. And so so think about it like this. The mobile access component, that is just simply the Bluetooth transport mechanism. So the app talks to the reader, Bluetooth, wireless, everything's great. Once the reader has authenticated with the app and the card data has been sent, the reader itself just simply sends essentially a card data, so card number 1, 2, 3, 4 and site code. So from that perspective, it's no different to badging at a card. And so in that sense, integrity and inception support the ability to automatically disarm or arm based on how you set this up. If the user is authorized. So if the door is locked and the area behind the door is armed, once the mobile access credential is presented, it will unlock the door and disarm the area behind that door if the user is authorized to disarm as well, automatically.
Exactly, yeah. It ties in with the existing disarm on access logic of our integrated intruder and access system.
Yep.
And the other part to that is it also ties in with the 3-badge arm scenarios. So if the area inside of a door is configured to be armed via a 3-badge action, normally you would badge a card 3 times, and that would arm the area. You can do the exact same thing from the phone by just tapping the unlock button 3 times.
Cool. We got another question, which I think is just worded slightly different. Do you need an active internet connection on your phone to unlock a door? No. Once it's set up, no. So that's answered that one. Don't think any more questions are coming through. So if there's any final questions, feel free to post in the next few seconds. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up, which is great timing because this is about 1 hour. So excellent, really good questions, by the way. That has helped flesh out and explain, a lot more technical details, what the system is and isn't capable of providing. Okay, yeah, sorry, one more question's come through. I think we'll take this as the final question. Are licenses added to Integrity the same way door licenses are added? Yes. In the same way in Integrity software, well, that is to say, in terms of the purchasing process, the installer would purchase the door licenses from the distributor, Wesco. The door licenses would be generated in Keypoint according to the Integrity product key. And once they are claimed, they are automatically sent down to the Integrity system. If Integrity is connected to the internet, it just synchronizes the licenses. So they are automatically added. And it's the same thing. Same thing for mobile credential licenses. So the waiting period should be as quick as it can be humanly processed, which is typically just a matter of hours, and you'll get those mobile credential licenses, really short time frame. And similar story for Inception. So the next part of that question was, how are licenses added to Inception? As Steve said before, this is the first time that Inception has gained the notion of licenses. So in the Inception UI, once you update to version 6.2, there is under general settings, somewhere there's a license option, and that'll show you your summary of licenses. At this point, mobile access licenses are the only licenses that exist. But in terms of the ordering process for Inception, it's exactly the same. Order through Wesco, the licenses are generated in Keypoint. Inception automatically synchronizes with Keypoint to download those licenses once they are claimed. So it should be a matter of hours.
For those familiar with the InterRange license platform, Keypoint, license.interrange.com, you would now see, in addition to your Integrity product keys for all of the Integrity solutions that you manage, you'll see a separate section for your Inception controllers. So as part of the purchasing process at Wesco, you would specify the Inception controller serial number, and then those licenses will be applied to that Inception serial number and associated with your installation company within that license platform.
So you're saying there's a new tab in Keypoint, I believe, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I understand as well. So installers, feel free to log into Keypoint, and as soon as you log in, you'll see a new tab, Inception. And as Steve said, that'll allow you to link your serial numbers and subsequently order licenses. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time again. Feel free to reach out to us, sales@interrange.com. Couldn't be easier. Alternatively, feel free to contact your Wesco sales rep or account manager, and happy to field any questions. So thank you once again, and thank you, Steve.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.